Reason Studios just dropped a new virtual instrument called Friktion, which models strings. I think it does it better than any other VST I've used in the past. I really like this rack extension, and I think Reason Studios have actually been on a roll this year with Beatmap and Friktion. I wasn't expecting either of those things, but both of them I think are very unique in the way they are done, and I think both of them, well, Beatmap already has had an influence on the way that I make music in my workflow, but I think this Friktion instrument is now going to become the go-to thing that I want to use for string sounds. The thing that I noticed when I first pulled it up was how playable it is. It's really like an instrument. You get going with the mod wheel and it can be so expressive. It's like you're playing actual strings, which I think is super dope, because often VSTs can feel like a bit like you're playing a computer. I think that's the beauty of playing an actual instrument, but I found this instrument that Reason Studios have made so effortless to play. In this video, I jump into a track that I was working on using just my voice. There's a couple of cool things I was doing in that too, and try to add some string parts. I haven't gone super in depth into how this Friktion instrument works. Reason Studios' release video for it is really good at explaining that, but I've done a little bit of an overview of some of my favorite features of it and kind of just showed my first impressions using it in the context of a track. So give this video a like, hit that subscribe button, let me know if you've got any questions about Friktion in the comments, and let's get into it. I've done a little bit to this track since I first started recording it, but everything that you hear, except for the drums, was made with my voice. Got this melody thing going on here. That's just my voice with a bunch of RC20 on it. Same with this. I think I just used a lot of RC20. And I manipulated the audio a bunch, stretched it, stuff like that. But one cool thing that I did here, I was really enjoying this sound. This kind of percussive vibe. So I put a gate on the bass and sidechained it to that percussive vibe, and then filled this track with a whole lot of bass sounds. But you can hear that it's only triggering when something's happening in this channel here. So it just gives the percussive track a lot of weight to it because of the bassiness. Yeah, it's dope. But the agenda today is to try and record some string parts or something using Reason's new instrument, which is awesome. I love it. Reason Studios, I think, have really been outdoing themselves recently with Beatmap and now this new plugin. I'm a fan. One of the things I really love about this instrument that they made a deal about in the release video is the way you can really play it with the mod wheel. This is more dynamic than any MIDI string instrument I've ever used. I haven't really messed around with any of the settings at this stage. I've just been playing around with some of the patches, but it's so fun. I'm not going to go too much into how this works exactly, because I think the Reason Studios release video does a really good job of showing that, and I don't think there's any point in me doubling up information. But real quick, what we've got is a layout that looks very familiar to a synth, and you interact with it in the same kind of way you would a synth. But instead of typical synth parameters, instead we're dealing with things that you would expect to come with a string instrument, like when you're bowing, accent, pressure, position of the bow, noise. When you're plucking, you know, the type of resonator body you could be using to actually produce the sound. And what I really love about this is the number of performance things you can do to play it. You've got all of your modifier keys down here. You can see I'm pushing down C sharp, which is turning on the tremolo feature. There's without the trem. There's with the tremolo. This one here is creating a harmonic. And you can see when I push this F sharp here, it's also highlighting that the harmonic section up here is turned on. I can also click that harmonic section and now it's turned on all the time, and then when I push F sharp, it actually turns it off. So I think it's really cool how you can interact with these different sections with like performance modifiers, or they can be set on by default and you can create the inverse with the performance modifier. Possibly one of my favorite things about this instrument, other than just how fun it is to play, is this articulation section in the center here. You can change the attack velocity and the sustain and the release and all that kind of stuff depending on what. But I love that as I hit it, the note with different velocities, you can see that reflected in this curve. And it actually sounds different as well. It is very satisfying. It makes it feel a lot more like you're playing an actual instrument as opposed to just hitting notes on a MIDI keyboard. You can use a modifier key there to do a glide. But one of the other things that I really like about this is how the notes flow between each other. That is something that I've found difficult with other string DSTs or whatever in the past, is that it kind of just sounds a lot like you're playing a MIDI instrument because you don't get the proper articulation in terms of notes flowing between each other. And I feel like this is something that this instrument does pretty well. It's just so easy to play. When I first opened it up, I just got caught up in playing it. I feel like a lot of VSTs, you don't really play like instruments, whereas this is just dope. I haven't even really touched any of the settings yet. I've just been enjoying messing with the patches too much. But that is enough at an overview of that. I want to try and incorporate some of this into this track that we've got. The first thing I want to do is try add some bass. I also want to maybe add some of that bass flute. Kind of works. What's really cool actually is when I hit that trigger key, the velocity I hit it with affects how the re-triggering is happening, or the re-bowing, or whatever it's called. Really hard, really soft. That's a lot of control, I like that. I'm loving how this strings thing is sounding. Let's just have a listen to some of the parts and clean up anything we need to. That sounds all good, I think. These are my modulation curves from the mod wheel. I can go in and change those if I want to. The other interesting thing that I'm just realizing I could do is, if I decided the velocity of that hit there was too loud, I could turn it down. That's sick. I love that re-trigger function. Right, what do we got in the bass? Well, that is the video, guys. Thanks so much for checking it out. What do you think of Friktion? Is this something you're going to be using? Do you like where Reason Studios is going with their recent releases, Beatmap and Friktion? And yeah, do you have any criticisms about Friktion? I have only kind of used it a couple of times so far. I really like it, but I'm going to have to play with it a bit more before I kind of decide if there's anything I don't like about it. Anyway, let me know in the comments. I'll catch you guys next time.